Why hello! Welcome to Metroidvania Chronicles. I'm Jeremy Parrish, the webmaster and sleepy voiced narrator of this non-linear adventure. If we're going to do this thing, I suppose we should lay down some basics first. Perhaps we should begin with the most basic of all basics then. Namely, what in God's green earth is a Metroidvania? Metroidvania is not a real word. It is a portmanteau of two other words, and neither of them are real either. Metroid and Castlevania. They're titles of video games. Proper nouns mashed together improperly as a rough and not particularly accurate way of defining a style of game. Contrary to scoreless internet rumor, I am not responsible for the existence of the word Metroidvania. I may have been the most egregious abuser of the term, but I didn't summon it into existence. I first saw it used on Scott Sharkey's forums about a decade ago, and it very specifically referred to the Game Boy Advance Castlevania trilogy. Clearly derived from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the GBA Castlevania sequels boasted free-roaming action and progression through item acquisition and backtracking, much like the Metroid series. So anyway, I may have adopted the bad habit of using the term as a sort of umbrella to describe other games in that style, which then spread to games only loosely similar to that style, which, through repetition and abuse, eventually became a de facto standard. But rather than apologize for my part in this fiasco, I would instead prefer to double down on it. I cut my gaming teeth playing Metroid, and the idea of immense and immersive video game worlds that demand exploration, discovery, and the use of advanced techniques are a narcotic to me. Clearly, I'm not alone here. Metroid-style action games have become quite popular among independent game developers, and big-budget games lean on those mechanics and design rules as well, with everything from Batman Arkham Asylum to Dark Souls incorporating the fundamentals of Metroidvania design into their huge 3D worlds. With Metroidvania.com, I'd like to explore the origins and evolution of the genre, particularly the 2D games, mainly because free-roaming action tends to lend itself more naturally to 3D design, which makes more old-school games of the type feel a little more remarkable. And just as Metroidvania games tend to be non-linear and sometimes lead to dead ends, this particular journey probably will too. Besides exploring the games that stick to the very specific formula of the Metroid and Castlevania franchises, we'll also be looking at the game's inspirations, their roots, and their spin-offs. Free-roaming 2D action games didn't get their start with the original Metroid, but that game's smart design definitely codified the style. Castlevania II: Simon's Quest integrated RPG mechanics into the format. Super Metroid perfected Metroid's approach. Castlevania Symphony of the Night improved immeasurably on Simon's Quest. So you can see where the word Metroidvania comes from. But here's the thing. Because Metroidvania isn't a real word, there's no real definition for it. There's no such thing as a true Metroidvania. As such, there's no need to be a stickler for definitions. Metroidvania.com isn't about laying down rules or defining what games get to be part of some exclusive club. It's just not that serious. It's about the spirit of exploration, even if it's an illusion. It's about games like Monster World 4, which are actually incredibly linear, don't offer much value in, or many mechanics to allow for, backtracking, but which nevertheless embody the spirit of Metroidvania by creating the impression of a big, expansive, interconnected world begging to be explored. It's about contemporary games like Shadow Complex that carefully mimic the structure of the classics while adding new elements like cover shooting to the mix, or games like Strider, which tries to reconcile the blazing action of the original arcade game with the more adventurous focus of the seemingly incomplete NES game. And it's about the games that came before Metroid, too, the ones that paved the way spiritually, if not as direct inspirations. Mostly, though, Metroidvania.com is an excuse for me to play and write about games I love, and games I've always meant to play, which, frankly, is probably as good a mission statement as any. So please, stay tuned. Metroidvania may not be a real word, but I hope that Metroidvania.com will overcome this hollow foundation and excel regardless. So thanks for watching and reading.